I'll call you later. I'm in my commission meeting. Bye-bye.
So can I call this meeting to order? Please rise.
Certainly. If you'll join me. Father God, we just come to you today and we thank you and we praise you with how awesome you are. We thank you for choosing to love us and we are just so appreciative of your grace. Lord, thank you for sending your son for each one of us. And Lord, I just thank you for each staff member that we have here at this county that chooses to be the public servant that they are. We ask that you bless them and their families. Please take care of the men and women that are fighting so hard to protect our great nation. We ask that you're with these commissioners today, Lord. Just guide and direct them and give them your wisdom to make decisions to glorify you. We ask that you're with all of our state leaders and our national leaders, Lord. There's just so much more we could do with you. And we just thank you for your presence and we thank you for your love and your forgiveness. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zenith symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you. Okay. Item 1, approval of agenda.
So move to approve the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 2, approval of minutes from April 4th regular meeting and dispatch workshop. I'll make that motion.
I second.
Motion made and seconded to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Item 3, approval of accounts payable and payroll.
So move, Mr. Chairman, to approve the accounts and payables presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Public request. Someone would like to address the commission this morning? Nobody, y'all just like to look at us, I see.
I don't know about that.
Okay, thank you. Elected officials, assessor's office.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Did everybody get the report sent to them or whatever? Okay. Page 2 is the state statute that shows the commissioners are overlook where our 1% money is coming from. And it has everything in there that's required in this report. And and then page 3 is our calendar. These are the deadlines and tasks that are required of the assessor's office. And then going on to page 4. Okay, this is the yearly comparison growth tables. This is a snapshot of the value for the past 3 years in our county. And down at the bottom is 3 years of the sales, buildings, permits, and transfers in our office. And then required is the sales ratio report, which is it's the value, like a value of a residence in our system divided by the sales price. And it's supposed to be there's a ratio and it's supposed to be within 90%. And ours came in at 96.42%, which is good. And then page 6 is our progress table. It shows, this table shows how many accounts are in our system since 2013. And the bottom half shows how many accounts that we worked. And page 7 is our reappraisal plan. And as the assessor's office, we're supposed to look at everything in the county every 6 years. I wanted to, in my term, I wanted to look at everything in 4 years. So this is the plan that we're putting forth. And page 8, this is where our 1% money's spent. And I don't know if you have any questions about that. I know it's kind of quick, but
That's perfect.
okay.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
Treasurer's office, Dale Sanchez.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning.
Wanted to inform you and everyone, I got a call yesterday from the delinquent, delinquent property tax division of State of New Mexico. They will be conducting a auction for property tax liens on June 28th. Last year, we had it here in this room, and we had an abundance of attendees. This coming June, I believe that it would behoove us to move that auction to the Jake Lopez so that we can accommodate everyone that's interested and wants to attend that auction. That's the plan right now. That is a tentative date, and if anything changes, the state will let us know. Anyone have questions on that?
Mr. Council, does that need to be made in a motion? Or can we just, management can just proceed with schedule and everything?
Any other questions? Okay, great. We'll continue on and we'll talk about your general fund cash balances. At the end of February, your beginning cash was $5,302,328.97. We had debits of $447,102.58, and you had credits of $3,704,842.79, leaving your February ending cash general fund at $2,444,588.76. Does anyone have any questions over your cash balances of general fund? Okay, very good. Thank you.
Leo,
Yes, sir.
isn't that $2,044,588.76?
Yes.
Instead of $2,444.
Did I say 400? I'm sorry. I apologize. Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. I didn't know
I'm
if we
trying
need
to
correct-
add
I
another.
didn't know if we need to correct that or not.
Well, yes, probably so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Johnny Montiel.
Morning, Commissioner Chairman. I got a little bit more information on the floodplain process. As you know, back in the fall, we were supposed to be in our first preliminary and appeal and common area. Unfortunately, I found a lot of errors and a lot of information that were incorrect and a lot of that data. So I submitted some comments, and they've corrected all the maps, and they also included one of the issue that I had was they didn't include Dora or Kazi, so they didn't have an opportunity to comment and appeal anything. So I requested for them to add them on the maps. So with that being said, we're starting our second 90-day comment and appeal process, which is, it started on April 5th and it'll run through July 4th. We'll have opportunity to make, if there's any more issues, to correct them again. And if not, if they're finalized, then we'll move into our 60 days where we'll update our ordinances, and I'll help the rural communities set theirs up also. Everything's been published in the newspaper on March 29th and April 5th. And also there's a website that people can look up and see their status and where they're at in the floodplain. So I stand for any questions.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm glad you brought this up today, Johnny, because I've had some issues in the past,
Mhm.
even when I was commissioner way back in the day. So with the preliminary report, is everything staying status quo or has something changed?
No, there's going to be some changes in the city. It's actually going to benefit a lot, and I can't speak for the city because I'm the county floodplain manager. But in the city, the way I see it, it benefits the city. In the county, there's going to be some properties that are going to be in a flood zone. So if they have a federally backed mortgage or their mortgage company requires them to have some type of flood insurance, then they'll be required to get flood insurance.
Right.
But for me, as a floodplain manager, I see positive out of it.
And I'm gonna let the record reflect what came up with me in the past and even now is that all of our rain, water, everything drains south.
Mhm.
And when I was a commissioner, like I said, in the early 2000s, they lifted the floodplain from that whole area and placed it in North Portales, where
Right.
we don't have a huge
Mhm.
flooding areas within that jurisdiction, which is my district, in
Right.
District 1. So, and of course, there's a lot of individuals that are poverty stricken. And I know there was a lot of subdivisions that went up in that area whenever that team back in the day decided to lift it there. So I just want to make sure that I can address this issue on behalf of my constituents, because a lot of times my constituents are working class people. They just can't make it. They can't make it to the meetings. So I'd like to just stay afloat if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, and
Read
and
updates.
anybody can contact me, and I'll walk them through it or explain everything to them about the flood zones. And so, and I can also walk them through the websites and show them, hey, this is your property, this is what you're looking at, this is what's going to happen. But most of the flooding that's going to be changed in the preliminaries that are shown in the preliminaries right now in Portales are going to be more into the roadways, because that's where the flooding starts. And so a lot of properties will be out of the flood zone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hamilton.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So just a few things I wanted to run through right quick this morning as we get started. I was able to attend the New Mexico legislative update with our county clerk. A lot of great information. Chaves County did a great job of hosting the event, and it was a good little regional gathering. Several things the first thing that really stuck out to me is what Representative Pettigrew shared. The governor's budget has gone up and increased 82%. PED has increased 102%. And higher ed has increased 150% over the course of 6 years. So those three agencies alone account for 71% of the state's total budget. That was pretty alarming for me when you start hearing how much of an increase. When you see a budget that has doubled in 6 years and a population that's decreased, the math doesn't really work. So just want to share that bright light with y'all this morning. As far as the other updates, I know y'all received those from New Mexico counties. They did a great job of putting stuff together. One of the big things, of course, is the budget bill itself and what went through, there also was some funding for capital projects for public facilities. The counties are saddled with housing so many of our public entities, including the district courts. So there's money in there for some district court houses. This first year, we anticipate the funding for the most part will be dedicated to Otero County for their situation. So we see that as potentially a future source of funding. It'll come through AOC and they'll determine some of those priorities. So we'll keep you abreast of those as they come about. We did have several changes that the clerk has made us aware of in terms of lots of bills as it related to voting. We are paying attention to several of the other bills that have civil rights implications, detention, law enforcement, and such that can impact county operations on that local government level. There is a law enforcement workforce fund, and they did include in that the ability to include detention officers. And we really want to continue to work on retainment. As you know, we are only at 2 vacancies out there, which is we're faring much better than the majority of the state in terms of hiring and such and retention. So we want to keep it that way. And that fund will be a critical aspect to that. One thing that we were very active on was county detention center facility treatment programs specific to our MAP program that we have here at our detention center. They did take out the county funding. So as a result, they took out the county requirements to provide that. The best thing, though, for all of us that we were excited about is it requires New Mexico Corrections Department to continue and expand MAT programming for inmates at that point. What's happening is we're seeing these programs here. We get them in our program. We get them the help they need. We get them on the services, the medication and such, and then they go to Department of Corrections and there's no such programming. So then we can't send them on medications. It really cripples what the counties can do to help these individuals that come into our custody. So we're really excited to see where that is. And we will be at the table to be able to help with those policy making decisions. So that is a key part of this, is to make sure that we have a voice at the table of what works at the local, and to keep in mind urban versus rural is so much different, because our challenges here are finding access to our providers and having those active community resources that we can in turn hand off to. So we are watching that one closely. We also had some good advancements in HB 407. It was the disposition of the deceased next of kin. It has everything to do with unclaimed bodies that we're responsible for, and it helped increase the allotment from 600 to 1,000, so that some of our local funeral homes now will be able to assist in those dispositions that we've been challenged with before. So positive statute change that all of us counties really worked hard. It was something that we wanted to see there. So we're glad to get that one signed. We did have some really notable positive improvements in the IPRA, the inspection of public records. And this is something that we've really struggled with in the last few years, as we've seen it's been used very much in a challenging way when it comes to county operations, and it takes such an extraordinary amount of time, effort, resources. So to see some positive movements in those, they limited some of those restrictions in terms of body cam footage that we knew when they first passed that in regards to our law enforcement officers, having to use body cams on undercover or notification of a death or filming any kind of deceased bodies and things like that. They had asked for restrictions earlier. They weren't listened to. So then they went back and fixed them this time. So we're thankful to see some of those positive things. We continue to spend a lot of time, staff, resources processing these. So any forward movement on this overall area is going to be very, very helpful. And I think that's really the big areas. We know that we're going to see some changes in our property tax. They did pass some tax exemptions specific to veterans. So a lot more information is going to be forthcoming to the assessors and the treasurers as a result of that through their affiliates. And then the last thing is, I just need each of you to be thinking about who plans to attend the summer conference. It's the week of June 13th in San Juan County. And if you'll let me know, I just want to make sure we have everything taken care of. The end. Thank you.
That was simple. Thank you. Commissioners, Mr. Lopez.
No, I just want to mention the burial fund that was increased. And I just want for the record that our community, I think we've had one the whole time I've been in politics since I arrived back to Roosevelt County. And I just want to thank the most recent Todd Steed that did, I think it was a John Doe funeral where he had no next of kin, and they did it pro bono for free. So, you know, our community does come together when whenever we have those situations, so we may not even need that. That's all I have. I don't want to complain anymore
Okay,
than I did yesterday.
perfect.
I have none, Mr. President.
I'm good. I'm good, sir. Okay, moving on, new business. Item 6A, Last Repair Chicken Communication. Beth Harrell
Okay.
and Bill Humphreys has been named also.
Yeah, where is
Want me to
the?
stand up there?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having us. Really, this is more informative, just to kind of give the commission some information on what we're working on, and just kind of taking you back a few years ago, about 10 years ago, Wendell Bostwick put together a group of people, stakeholders, if you will, of county commissioners. Some of the stakeholders were from the oil and gas industry, farmers, ranchers, utility companies, because there was a real coalition kind of put together to help fight against this listing of the prairie chicken and how it would impact, you know, rural America downtown, or some of our industries, some of our ability to keep production levels up. So with the now listing of the prairie chicken again, we thought it would be a great idea to kind of build that coalition back together again. And some of you might have been involved in that 10 years ago, and it was very successful. And so what I'm here to talk about is we're not putting together a 501c3 or anything like that. What we're trying to do is enhance communication. And so as we move forward with this, and we hope to have something established in the very near future, and we can send something in writing to the commission. But essentially what it would look like is have a central point of information so that we can have it delegated out to the various stakeholders. Because today we were talking about a request that came in for public comment. Some people may not even understand that's out there right now. It's for water. You know, so if we felt like we could put this group back together and then have that central point of communication, it helps in a number of ways. Number one, we're all kind of on the same page. A lot of these policies, this listing the endangered species, and some of the other issues that are coming our way, either through the state or through the federal government, are impacting various industries, various families, communities, etc. So by putting this kind of resource together and having a way to get good information out, but it also enables some of these smaller counties that don't have maybe the resources or the technical support to write a very technical, say, public comment for maybe a federal policy, or even a state in some ways. Then we can see where we can share information, where we can kind of help each other along with information and provide kind of shared resources as it relates to information. So we feel that, you know, in the east side of the state right now, it's the lesser prairie chicken, but it still doesn't hurt to have a more of a coalition, even if some of the people engaged are not maybe directly impacted. But anytime you have something that's going to impact any kind of disrupt any of our production, you know, our Main Street America, rural communities, jobs, etc., it's good. I mean, and for instance, there might be information that you guys want to get engaged with the, for instance, Mexican gray wolf, on how that's impacting, say, Catherine County or Grant County, but where we can just kind of have that point of contact within each organization, so that when we put the Dropbox together, we can say, here's what's happening, or here's when comments are due, or here's when we're going to meet, or here's a policy. I mean, there's 12,000 animals on the endangered species list. I mean, we have to be prepared to start thinking how we look at these things in a more of a cohesive way. So that's kind of what we're here to say. And Bill, you might have something else you want to add, but it's more just informational, so that we can kind of come together and just at least work together on providing good information to all the stakeholders. And then when public comment or things of that nature are requested, we can kind of come as more of a unified front. Because I think what we're seeing in some of the counties is it just makes more sense if there's some unity. For instance, this Forest Service is really hitting more Chavez, Lincoln, Otero County, but it's a pretty significant land grab that, for instance, Otero County, we are already managed for, what is it, 80 something percent of our county is public land. So we don't have a lot of resources coming in through taxes and other opportunities. And to take another 400 plus thousand acres out of that and designate it as wilderness area absolutely cripples the ability to either at some point in time develop private industry as it relates to logging or cattle grazing. So I think if we just can and we're not trying to replace like the county, the Association of Counties, we're just saying we need to streamline how we communicate and make sure we're all on the same page for some of these issues that are more prevalent in the rural, the western states and certainly rural New Mexico.
I think the only thing I would add to that is that when you look really closely at the impacts of some of these things, look really closely at what it might do to the tax base. And that's happened in a number of counties already. That's not like some pie in the sky boogeyman out there. When they hit your tax base, it hits the schools the same way. And when you take big chunks out of production, which most of these actions are capable of doing, then you lose tax base, whether it's livestock or oil and gas production or just property tax, because sometimes property goes out and doesn't come back or gets converted to something that's not taxable. So we're trying to make sure that information is available. As you mentioned, that a lot of the small counties simply don't have the capacity to put together comments that are really necessary if you're going to even maintain standing to stay in the disagreement. So that's part of the process, to be able to provide people information and to have it affordable.
Yeah, so what we're doing is just going to some of the different counties. We'll be going to some of the different stakeholders, for instance, the oil and gas community, utilities, right of ways are going to be impacted on some of these decisions. So we just want to make sure everybody is on the same page. And I kind of feel like this was such a successful program 10 years ago, and we kind of just dropped the ball, and now we're just trying to put it back together. So it's really more informational so the county can know. And if it's the county manager or whoever the point of contact would be here, when that time comes, then we'll be sure to put that coalition together. But I know that we need to put something in writing maybe for the commission to look at, just to kind of describe. And like I said, we're not trying to establish a 501c3 or we're really just saying, look, there's so much information flying at the different groups all the time. If we could just harness that and then get it to the right people, I think it makes us stronger as rural communities, rural counties, but as a state, So that's really all we had.
I've got a question, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, because, welcome. First of all, welcome to our meeting. I'm a little confused because I know that Commissioner Dixon, this is her passion, and she's attended a lot of different things throughout the state. So what's the difference between how she's representing us and what you guys are trying to establish? Because we get ongoing reports, really, really good reports on this whole issue.
Right.
And it's actually educating me quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know what a lesser prairie chicken was before this issue started back in the day, but I really didn't. Never seen one. But what is the difference, Commissioner Dixon?
I invited them because I work with them. You've got Chavez County, Lee County's here, Curry County's back there in the corner hiding. This is part of our little group that's here, and we're actually going to have a meeting later today to discuss it. Yvette is our face of the prairie chicken.
Yay.
And
Well, it's actually, Commissioner, won't replace like the reports and all that you're getting. But I think what we're seeing happen is some people weren't aware that the comment periods for certain issues were coming and going and gone. Other counties, other communities didn't respond because they didn't feel like they had that technical experience to be able to do it. So this way we can kind of share some of the public comments. And it's not just for the prairie chicken. I mean, it could be, for instance, like I was mentioning earlier, the Forest Service with what they're doing in terms of looking at some of the public lands to incorporate into a wilderness area, but just some of the different things that really have an impact on, rural Main Street. And there's been, like I said earlier, there's some comments for water that's they're out now, but Bill didn't even know about it, which is sometimes you just miss things. So we're not trying to replace what you're getting, because you're right. There are some good informational reports. It's just a way to, I think if we kind of cohesively come together and see how does this listing or this policy impact right of ways or utilities or the ability to keep our production levels up, or how does it impact our rural communities or any goods and services that we're trying to, what does it do to the tax base? And does it enhance employment efforts, or is it going to cripple, some of our ability to keep people employed? And so it's more of just a kind of a one size fits all kind of drop box where we can point to issues that, for instance, there may be something really pressing that happens in Catron County that's far from here, but it may be something this commission would want to at least be aware of or have a voice in or lend support to. And I think it's just kind of, again, not taking the place of any other organization, but just, I think we're at a time where there's so much information coming out of DC or even Santa Fe that it simplifies it. It just keeps the county from having to use resources for the county manager to have to go find all these things, or the county attorney, where we have this kind of, and I don't know, you might have been involved when when Wendell Bostwick had kind of put together that group about 10 years ago, and it just simplified it. And there was really kind of safety in numbers, and they were very successful in being able to come together with ideas and suggestions and kind of pushing back on what this would have meant for a listing at that time. And I think it's kind of the same thing, because right now I think a lot of counties or even individuals feel like their voices aren't being heard. And if we can provide information that gives a more rounded description of what something is policy is going to do, or how it will impact the community or the county, we just think it's just smart to keep everybody in the loop, so to speak.
Could I give you two brief examples, Commissioner?
Sure.
That might be meaningful. One of the things that, like on the Lesser Prairie Chicken, getting the comments in when the listing notice is out there, and you have to get the comments in before they determine it. You have to submit biological information, not economical information. So some of the counties, when they looked at that, they just like panicked, because how do we accumulate this information? They've sent us this deal that's a species status evaluation that the Fish and Wildlife put together, 250 pages long. How do we answer that? Well, some counties were able to, and some organizations were able to put together extremely sophisticated biological comments that had to be accepted. And I know in one case, one of those entities paid over $200,000 to have those comments put together. This time, just in this sort of loose, grab it and try to put it together for the counties, we shared that with everybody that wanted it. But a lot of people still didn't know. And you didn't have to write the whole 80-page summary. You could pick and choose out of it. But you could have submitted as a limited capacity entity valid information off of those comments. And we had access to some of the stuff that the oil and gas industry put together, because they helped create this Dropbox that I didn't know what it was. It's some technical deal, but it's a place where you can share that information. So smaller counties, school districts got access to valid information to maintain standing and get good comments in. And then when I look back to the situation that's talking about with the last time Commissioner Bostwick from Curry County, and there was active participation from every county. But we tried really, really hard to get Fish and Wildlife to meet with us. And I think that was in like 2008, and it was not easy. But as a result of putting that group together, we actually got a meeting, I think probably a number of you here in Portales, where the director himself came to Portales and had to face the people and talk. And we think we modified it a little bit. What actually happened is Permian Basin Petroleum Association filed a lawsuit. A lot of us joined, other entities did, and they won. So we all kind of heaved a big sigh of relief and went home, and we should have known that it was going to be right back. So we're just trying to make a situation where people have good information, and we have the ability to represent the counties and the constituents and economy well.
Thanks for that info. It helps. That's all I have.
I think that,
Thank
I
you.
think you guys probably preaching to the choir here. So, I think that most of these commissioners have rural constituents. And most of us are fully aware of the prairie chicken and the dune sandbrush lizard and reintroduction of the gray wolf, and probably if it can happen in Catron County, it can happen here if they want to protect predators in our area. So we're kind of understanding, and we applaud your effort. Thank you for coming.
Thanks. And I just, on a final little note, and like you said, the chicken's not going to impact really Lincoln County directly. Indirectly, it could. But, you know, they're going to have a fight on their hands, Otero and Lincoln, when the butterfly. I mean, they're going to probably look at listing it. The greatest threat to the butterfly, they're saying in the report I've read, is the wild horse population, the feral horses. That's going to be an interesting argument to watch. But I think what Bill's saying is when we kind of can put it into a format that's easier, I think it makes everybody's job easier and it helps educate. But, you know, where we can kind of see what other counties are going with, I think when we have that unified voice in terms of just rural living is just, I mean, the manager said it's urban versus rural, you know, it's a different kind of ball game. So I think it helps us. And they proven that 10 years ago when they had this coalition. So thank you so much for letting us. And as we move forward and get things put together, certainly I can get a letter to Tina, or to Commissioner Dixon, so she can share it with the group and then we can kind of go from there. But we're not in the infancy stages, but we're not quite there yet. But we certainly wanted to start giving people the information. So
I would like to add one thing. Commissioner Dixon was able to get Fish and Wildlife
Yeah.
to meet with us again this time through her efforts to at least explain and try to help us identify where they were talking about instead of the 200 million acres on the map. They didn't back off of the map. They just gave us information, which was in some ways not great information for Roosevelt and Curry and Chavez County, because it sort of left the epicenter of where they're going to focus in this 4-county area. But it was as a result of one of your commissioners that they finally agreed to talk to us. So
thank you.
Bill and Bet, we really appreciate y'all coming and making the effort to explain to us. Thank you.
Chair, I've got a couple of questions. Paul, Yvette, Bill, 2014 counties joined up in a lawsuit with Permian. Was it 2014? When Lee County, Roosevelt County.
Four counties actually.
Yes, Roosevelt County.
And I'm not sure they all co-plaintiffs, but they helped fund. And there were like 5 different lawsuits that time.
Yeah.
This time, the same entities are suing, but now Oklahoma stepped in. Their attorney general announced yesterday, and Texas did last week, that they're going to litigate separately. So horsepower's coming.
So what are the counties thinking about this time? Or is Lee County, Eddy County, Chavez, and Roosevelt, do we need to try to get together like they did back in 2014 to join something like that? What are the, do y'all know what the counties are thinking? Has anybody?
Well, Commissioner, the county manager for Chavez can speak to that. Bill Williams.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Chavez County has an intent to sue on the listing of lesser prairie chicken. It'll be on our commission meeting Thursday. We have it kind of open where we can join any suit that comes up. We haven't identified exactly who, but the PBPA is ready to go. We have status, we believe, and so we can join right into that suit. There's any number of ways that we can go about it, but we're just going to go ahead and do the resolution with the intent to sue first and foremost to make sure that we get that out there so that everyone is aware. Last year when we did our budget, we actually committed funds because we knew that either the Forest Service, the prairie chicken, the lizard, or some other critter, some spotted butterfly, who knows, it's going to come up and affect us. So we actually set aside a little bit of a budget to join these suits, and I expect we will do the same thing this year. We're just now starting our budget process, but I have no reason to believe we won't.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's a great question. And that's why this coalition will be so good, because then we could provide already the whole commission with what Chavez County is doing or what Lee County is doing or what other counties are doing, just so everyone's on the same page. And then if it's something this commission wants to get more engaged with besides say a resolution, but maybe look at joining a lawsuit. They already know who's out there, who's active, and the commission knows or the attorney knows who to contact, and reach out to see what they're doing in other communities.
Well, I sure think it's something this county needs to think of, because like my district, we're right in the heart of it. I mean, and I live right in the heart of this deal down there, and it's going to affect my livelihood plus my constituents' livelihood. And I think it's going to affect the county's livelihood in some one way or another. I'm not going to say that everybody will feel it or see it, but in one way or another, eventually it will be felt. And so I was curious about if the counties was going, if Lee County was going to try to see, if they was going to do something. And I think Roosevelt needs to think about this pretty hard and serious, because it's going to affect us, especially down there in the south part of the county right here.
Would you like to speak?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Commissioners, one thing that I think we need to point out is that this group also needs the help of Roosevelt County. There are a lot of leaders within our communities, within our state, within our area that deal with this. Roosevelt County is one of the ones I plagiarize often. I'd like to thank our county manager here. When we put together a resolution or something, we all share kind of efforts, and that's what we're talking about, is the ability to have people who are more educated in the way things work. And Amber, Ms. Hamilton is certainly one of the best that we have as a resource from other counties. And so what you guys put into this will also help the rest of us. So it's not just you guys needing our information, it's us needing your information as well. So just want to thank you guys for your participation and everything that you've been doing to fight these fights. We're all pretty similar in this part of the world. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I add?
Yes, sir.
Answer Commissioner Chris Rose. At this point, the number of lawsuits that are filed don't demand that the county become a plaintiff. But the way that people can help is contribute, even if you're not a named plaintiff. And like Permian Basin Petroleum Association, who actually won last time, and a number of counties were co-plaintiffs in that suit, they have agreed to carry the bulk of the weight, estimating around $750,000. A number of entities have already pledged and became co-plaintiffs, like New Mexico Cattle Growers, Texas Cattle Feeders, National Cattlemen, Kansas Livestock, and Oklahoma. Now, with the Attorney General of Texas filing a separate suit, we think Texas Southwestern joined that suit, and we just have to wait and see how it plays out. But even when people don't have the wherewithal or want to be a plaintiff, they can still contribute to Permian Basin or, Texas suit. I mean, I'm sure they'll all be glad to receive funds. But as we get the summaries of how each case is going to be litigated, and they'll take slightly different tacks about how they think the listing wasn't warranted, that it really was not an accurate decision on the Fish and Wildlife's part, but also did they follow the right procedures? And sometimes that's where they lose, because they didn't follow the right procedures. But the point being, as we get that information, we can get it into kind of nice one-page summary that we can get to you guys. Then you know exactly sort of where every lawsuit is. And it's a whole lot like trying to track chickens running around. It's really difficult at first, but we'll get that information.
Well, I sure appreciate you coming up here talking. Bill, I think Roosevelt County, just my personal view, I think we need to try to do something like y'all are doing. I really do. So, thank you.
I agree. Thank you guys very much.
Okay. Moving on. Item 6B. Request for consideration to allow Leesy's Roosevelt County Fairgrounds to permit alcohol sales in accordance with approved resolution 2019-28.
Good morning. Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you, commissioners and Mr. Chairman. And I think I know most everyone in the room, but if I don't, my name is Megan Hamilton, and together with my family, we own Ace Hardware, Ashley Furniture, and Enchantment Vineyards and Winery. And should this go poorly today, my mom and sister are my backup. They're my bodyguards. We would like to request that the county commissioners allow anyone who rents or leases the fairgrounds to follow the existing ordinance in order to permit for alcohol sales and consumption. And our bigger hope would be that we could attract some larger events that are similar to what they're doing in other counties and areas around us. You know, like some concerts, or we talked about barrel races and breakaway ropings. And then especially for us, we would like to encourage the New Mexico Wine Growers Association to bring back the New Mexico Wine and Cheese Festival. I did speak with the deputy director of Alcoholic Beverage Control Division. I don't appreciate them changing their name. They've gotten a lot longer. And we're in complete agreement that the fairgrounds is the perfect location to do so. You know, there've been so many improvements to it. It looks great. The facility looks great, and it's fenced all the way around with 2 entrances and exits, making it a wonderful venue to permit. As somebody who is co-owner of an alcoholic beverage control division license, I think I feel like we can answer any questions that you may have about the risks associated with serving alcohol, the benefits, or even the downfalls. So I am here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we'll start down.
Of
Creswell.
only question I have, if you're having this deal during the fair, what percentage portion would you be given would help out the fair board in their funds for entertainment or for bettering, stuff? What kind of percentage or portion would you be giving back to them of your alcohol sales out there?
For myself, I have no intention of serving alcohol at the fair. I think for us, it makes sense to do just private events that are geared and really directed towards just that, where alcohol is expected. That's not my intention at all, is to serve alcohol during the fair. And I don't know that it even needs to be during the fair.
Okay. Only question I have.
I don't have a question.
So it's my understanding that each event would be a separate event. Like if you leased it for your wine festival, whatever you're calling it,
Yes, sir.
then for each and every event, the commission would have to approve it for the alcohol sales for that event. So
Under
so-
your
so
existing
for-
ordinance.
Is it, or we're just we have blanket coverage for any event? Say we want to have a wedding rehearsal dinner in Jake Lopez. Would that be an automatic? Would it be automatic that they be allowed to serve alcohol, or would it be each event require permission from the commission?
So I read through your existing ordinance, and the way that I interpreted it, and the county manager can certainly correct me, is that you would need permission for every event from the county, but it does not say specifically the full commission. What we do now with the city, anytime we do a permit, is go to the city manager and she'll sign off. We'll have to show the existing plans, where our security will be stationed, where we'll have the open bar service, how many security agents we'll have for the event, the timing of the event, and how many licensed servers we'll have there, along with their license information, expiration dates, etc. And then that's approved by the city manager. And then from there, that goes to the state Alcoholic Beverage Control Division, and then they approve it and issue us a permit for that event. So I would assume the county would be the same way, and that's the way I interpret the ordinance, but that'd be a better question for the county manager.
Okay, well, the security. Who provides the security? Is this going to be additional requirement for our deputies?
So
Who, do you hire your own security?
So, according to the New Mexico state statutes, we're required to provide security anytime that we permit something for alcohol consumption, and we are responsible for providing our own security. And the number of security officers is laid out already by the state. And those security officers can be either a licensed server who's gone through all of the process to be a licensed server within the state, or it can be an off-duty deputy. And so we've got a great relationship with the sheriff's department. Sometimes we'll hire sheriff's deputies that are off duty to work as our servers. And then we've used the Eastern New Mexico University Police Department quite a bit as well.
Well, I know, Commissioner Criswell made the comment about what portion would be going to support the county fair, and said we're not intending on having that. And I'm glad that issue came up, because the Roosevelt County Fair is traditionally a family-oriented activity, and it is for youth development. Livestock shows are for youth development, to teach kids responsibility, cooperation. It's leadership development. And our schools it's in conjunction with our schools. Our schools are drug, alcohol, tobacco-free institutions. And I don't believe there's any place to, in my mind, it's just my opinion, to have that example set for our youth. I'm not in favor of any alcoholic beverage being served in conjunction with, adjacent to, or associated with any FFA activity. I believe that as leaders in our community, it is our responsibility to set a positive example. And I don't think that that is a positive example to our youth. So I'm excited to hear that, no, we are not going to have alcohol served at the Roosevelt County Fair. These other activities, I could think personally, I don't have any problem with, but as far as in conjunction with or adjacent to any youth activity, I'm adamantly opposed.
And Mr. Savage, I can't speak for anyone else in the community that also has an alcohol license, but we're neighbors, and that at our facility at Enchantment Vineyards, we want it to be very family oriented. We encourage families. We are agriculture first. We grow grapes, and we're really proud of what we grow, how we produce it, and what we put in the bottle. And anyone who's gone through the brutally painstaking effort of working with the state of New Mexico to get that license would never want to jeopardize it, I can assure you.
Mr. Lopez.
I'm not going to say much, because we've been dealing with this for many, many years with this issue. Although I know, thank y'all for being here first and foremost. I've gone to a lot of their events and stuff like that, and I see how professional, regulated their sanctioned events, and it's a good time out for friends, for military, for Eastern New Mexico University, for people coming into town. Our neighboring counties in Texas and New Mexico, I think, if not all, most of them provide this type of service at their county fairgrounds. I know it was Commissioner Lee's passion as well to try to bring in this to create new revenues for our county. But I've been to events, as you all know, all over the place. Right, Commissioner Greider? And, the professionalism has to mean something. Being responsible has to mean something. As Megan mentioned, she does not want to lose or jeopardize in any fashion of losing any type of license, because reputation it'll be a major downfall instantaneously. So like I mentioned, it's not their first rodeo, and we've been dealing with this for a long time, and we're just trying to find ways to bring new people into our community, to advertise our community, to have them see that Eastern Kansas Air Force Base is a workplace visiting with those that attend both places or are enlisted. So without saying, I'm sure you fellow commissioners know where I stand in reference to this. I would fully 100% support their initiatives to have sanctioned functions at their place that are well regulated.
Thank you. And
that's all I have.
I should mention too, in preparation for even the discussion, with this and talking even with the economic development group in Portales, we contacted 8 separate counties to see what they do at their event centers. And most of them have, or the vast majority have, governmental liquor license. And what I really appreciate about your ordinance is that it allows for private business to permit it. So it's not competing with private business, it's supporting it. And it's allowing us, who this is what we do in our livelihood, whether it's brewing beer or making wine, to permit it the way that we do with any other area and to support local business as well.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, and Commissioner Savage as well, I think there might be some limitation on what all you all as commissioners can do about limiting alcoholic beverages at the fair. I think the Fair Board has some say in it. I'm not entirely sure how that works out. I think we can put restrictions on how the leases for vendors are set up. But in terms of actually Roosevelt County Board of Commissioners restricting alcoholic sales at the fair, I think that's a different question. Does that make, and that was to answer Commissioner Savage's point.
So are you suggesting that you need to put together something that we can act on?
Well, and
Or-
yes, Mr. Chair, and I kind of did put together a lease. It's in the packet that you all will have, and you can adapt it how you want. But it does put some more insurance requirements on vendors that want to sell alcoholic beverages. Also set it up so that it limits possession or use of cannabis on the fairgrounds. And it's up to you all how you want that to turn out, but I wanted to give you options on it. And the short answer is I suggested the possibility of a $2 million insurance policy for vendors that serve alcoholic beverages. And that's just because that's what the tort claims cap is now for civil rights claims. And very many things seem to become civil rights claims when there's a cap that's higher.
Yes, sir. Is there any other business y'all want to take care of?
No, but I would make a motion to approve consideration to allow leases at the Roosevelt County Fairgrounds to permit alcohol sales in accordance with the approved resolution 2019-28.
I'll second it.
A motion has been made in favor of approving the resolution 2019-28 or the allowing of leases to serve alcohol. This will be a voice vote. Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Savage?
No.
Myself, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Have a 3-2 vote. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 6C, request for approval of FY24 Fire Protection Fund application for Arch volunteers.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Included in your commission packet is the annual requirement State Fire Protection Fund application for both Arch and Mill and Sand. I would like to request the approval of their fiscal year 24 required application fund for their funding.
This is a formality. So with that, I'll move to approve agenda item 6C as presented by Liliana.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve item 6C. Roy Lee?
Yes.
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 Unanimous, 6 votes. Yes. Motion passes. 5 votes, I'm sorry. I was thinking item 6. I was fixing to try to get ahead of myself. Moving on to item D, request for approval of FY24 Fire Protection Fund application, Millicent volunteer. This is basically the
The
same thing
same,
over
yes.
again. And
Yes,
I move
sir.
to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve. Dennis Lopez, how do you
Yes.
vote? Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
5 yes votes. Thank you. Item E, request for approval for treasurer to transfer $2.5 million to my account.
Oh, you
I'm
better
sorry.
retract that.
General fund.
I've tried orange and it does not look good on me. So no, we're not going that way. But since y'all were on your roll of all the yes votes, we're going to ask that we transfer those funds just so that we can take advantage of a higher interest rate. Currently at our investment account for general fund, and it will stay in a money market, so it will stay liquid. We're coming up on our second half of property tax collections, so we'll see higher increases of revenue coming in, so that money can sit for a little while until we need it for extra expenses. Or not extra, but our regular expenses. I stand for any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the adoption of 6E, approved for the treasurer transfer $2,500,000 into the general funds reserve.
Second.
Motion
Thank
made and
you.
second to approve. Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
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 Yes vote. Motion passes. Item E, discussion regarding the 2023 Roosevelt County Strategic Planning Retreat recap and next steps. Mrs. Hamilton.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. So just following up with the strategic planning retreat that we hosted, we had great engagement from the majority of the board and our leadership that were able to attend. The contractor is working on the final recap for the entirety of that 2-day event. And so we'll have all of our goals and milestones and everything laid out. We're going to be able to share that. We talked, I think, our County Treasurer Lael Sanchez shared how important it would be to share what we did with the public and let them hold us accountable as we continue to move forward. So we're excited to see that. Y'all have had the initial part where we sent it out so you can see the game plans. We've sent those out to everyone so that you can see kind of some of the work that's done on those initiatives. I think we've got about 5 or 6 that we're going to be working toward. And so it will be one of those that will be one that should be sooner rather than later, of course, is one of the discussion parts was talking about really working to facilitate that more positive and open line of communication and that negotiation ability with our relations with the city. And so what we'd like to do is to go ahead and move that forward. I know we talked about being able to move forward with a proposal for mediation and getting that fleshed out with our legal attorney. So since he's here, we would like to have that direction so that we can draft that formally to go to the entire city council and ask them to consider moving forward with a mediator and what that process can really look like and how we can keep things moving forward with the city. So that was one thing that in talking with our county attorney, we just wanted to make sure that we had what we needed to necessary as we move forward. I mean, we've got a lot of initiatives that we're working on, but this is a very important one.
It does not need to be in the form of a motion, right? We can just give directives to management to meet with our attorney.
Mr. Chair,
Ryder?
Commissioner Lopez, I think that that's right. I mean, I think unless anybody has any objection or disagreement with that, just general direction from the board is sufficient.
You guys have at it.
Okay.
It'll be great.
Thank you. Everything else is going to be great. She's going to be developing the finalized strategic plan. And we'll have that document. We're going to have it electronically. And we're also going to be able to have it printed out for like our road department, where all of our team, they come in every morning, they set out their plans and their goals, and they'll be able to have that up in their meeting room. So being able to have that there with our law enforcement entities, detention staff, I'm just really able to communicate collectively and collaboratively with our entire team exactly where we've set forward and where we're moving and how we're going to get there, and also have that necessary buy-in, because there's a lot of these initiatives that our staff and our personnel are really going to come alongside us and help us get there. So we're excited to see that, and we just wanted to have that recap, touch on that, so that we can get the formal plan put over to them to move forward. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Okay, item 7, contracts, agreements, and procurements. Presentation of revised draft agreement between Roosevelt County, City of Portales regarding Portales Communications Center agreement. Councilwoman Veronica, I'm glad to have you, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Before you have the revised draft, I would like to say that after the meeting with the county the other day, both the fire chief, the police chief, and the sheriff were able to sit down and kind of, express what their needs are, express why they need to have what they need to have. So then we were able to go back with our city manager and take it back to our council, and we have this revised draft now. So do they have the draft, Amber? Okay. So the draft in a sentence where it says, whereas an advisory committee will be created. We did add that because that was one of the things that we all thought was fair. So it's going to be 3 people with a volunteer, with the police chief, the fire chief, and the sheriff, and 1, I guess it's 4 because it's 1 volunteer fire chief. On item F, that change is once they talked, they were allowed to say that they would create a phone tree to where if there's a call for service that they need to have a response to for dispatch, that they would go on and list us as part of their contact on the call tree, and then it'll be that way that call for service can be dispatched. And then the term that was the other change that was there. It shall be in place June 30th, 2024. And we would like to have a successful JPA by the end of June 1st, 2024. And then everything else in kind of the legal mumbo jumbo, it'll just say either party instead of each party. And that was all of our changes. We did lift it back up to the 175, being that we made all the changes to make it what we all need. We did hire the director. We will, once she gets certified, she will be a standalone to where she's her own department head. I think that we've kind of reached the agreement to where it kind of all started at in the very, very beginning. If we would have just kind of, talk this through. I think one learning curve that I did come up with is that once we had the people who need the service at the table, then they were able to speak on why and what they needed. And that made the negotiations go way smoother than what, I don't understand dispatch. I don't understand what the sheriff needs, what the police chief needs, what the fire chief needs as far as a call. I just know that we have that service in our city and we provide that, but I don't really know the behind of everything that goes on with their departments. So once they were at the table, I think it went a little smoother. Yeah. So we will stand for any questions.
Councilwoman.
Yes, sir.
The last whereas there were talking about the advisory committee.
Uh-huh.
I see that as being a 4-member committee. I thought you said 3.
Yes, I did. I corrected myself. Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for your contributions.
You're welcome.
I personally like what I'm seeing.
Good.
Good job. My concern is the 175 because you probably there aware of the fact that I believe the 125 is
Yes.
closer to what is justifiable.
Yes.
But there may be other things that have occurred during the negotiations that I'm not aware of. And I have a lot of confidence in you as a negotiator and our negotiators here. So
Well, thank you.
I'm not comfortable with 175, but I will yield that to my colleagues.
Mr. Lopez, you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I did review it. I mean, it's got to happen.
Yeah.
And if we have to revisit something else down the road, then so be it. But for now, I think with the leaders all meeting together, i.e. the sheriff and police chief, I mean, I have no expertise in dispatch. I'll be honest. I'm like Commissioner Cordova, somewhat educated on it, but I'm no expert, far from it. So thank you guys for being here.
And I've noticed that any of the changes that we've made in here were not like a drastic change. It was just a little bit of rewording.
Yeah, I think it's important to highlight that. So the changes that the county's made, of course, is the first 3 quarters would be due upon approval and execution of the formal agreement between both entities, and the city shall submit an invoice for the 131,250, and the additional payment will be made at the end of each quarter. We just cannot pay for services not yet rendered. So we could pay for the services they've already rendered, have that set out, take care of the first 3 quarters, and then have it due. And this was all included in your packet. I know you've noted those changes. And then the other thing is the JPA is what's warranted in the event that the Board of Commission is giving up any kind of governing authority or power. In this instance, it's just advisory board that has no, I mean, they're just putting some input on policy, so you're not giving up. So at that point, it's just the need for an agreement. And if you do move forward with having a true regional dispatch oversight board or something that warrants a JPA, then the language that we changed to just said the parties may continue to negotiate towards a joint powers agreement or continued service agreement if warranted. But if the commission chooses something different or the council does, it gives that ability. And that was something that the county attorney, just making sure that it's changed from shall to may, so that everyone's taken care of and has the ability to continue to move forward with whatever path is selected.
Okay,
With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
and I'll second. The motion has been made and seconded to approve our agreement between Roosevelt County and Portales. Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
That'll be 5 yes votes. Motion passes.
The city would just like to thank you guys for the collaboration on this effort, and we look forward to working on the next round and with all the others that we have to do. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Veronica. Okay, item 7B, request for approval of law enforcement employment buyout contract. Sheriff Sanchez.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Commissioners. So in your packet, you had a draft of a conditional employment contract. So what we're trying to do is just create another recruitment tool within our office. In the past, we've had people that have wanted to come over from other agencies, but they are tied to a contract with that agency. And as you know, pay with law enforcement, you can't exactly pay out, your own contract with the pay that we receive. We definitely didn't do it to get rich in this business. So, if somebody's, trying to come to Portales from a different area, and, they can't afford to pay out their contract, even if it's $5,000-$6,000, they'll have to stick with that agency or, have to be in debt and get a loan and try to figure out a way to pay it off. So what we're proposing is that we can start to buy out people's contracts if they do want to come work for Roosevelt County. So it would help us with the recruitment. We've had several people in the surrounding agencies that haven't came over for, 3 years. They were tied to a contract. And that would have been a perfect opportunity to be able to get somebody, a young deputy at our office, and we could mold them and train them and build them up. But, sometimes we have to wait 3 years for them to fulfill their contract with that agency. So this would just give us that opportunity to get them over a little quicker.
Okay.
Some of the chief deputy and I were talking about the contract. We talked in length this straight evening about it, but it would still need to be revised a little bit, just to, like, it states uniforms. We don't allow anybody to keep uniforms when they leave our office. So that would be something that would need to be removed from there, because we could always reutilize uniforms for somebody else that comes along. And then maybe, and this may be in the question for the attorney, but some kind of language in the contract that would allow for, maybe a mutual agreement between the sheriff and the county manager, that if somebody suffers some kind of exigent life, altering experience where, God forbid they lose a spouse or a sibling or something, where they have to relocate or something that we could have some language in that contract where we wouldn't have to make them pay for it if it's an exigent circumstance, not just because they want to leave to another agency. I don't want to hold somebody to more debt if they have something life altering going on, and then now we're making them pay however much that contract might be. So maybe just a little bit of language change. But what we're requesting is just general practice for something that we can start.
Okay.
That way we can move forward.
Thank
you. And I'll stand for any questions.
Mr. Chairman, with what he just mentioned, because I did read this contract, and if there's going to be changes, I'd prefer to table it to the next meeting. I don't want to approve this and then them have to make changes, and then we have to reapprove. I mean, is that too difficult?
Go ahead.
There's not a sense of urgency, right, Sheriff?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lopez, I can work on it between now and the end of the meeting, and maybe we could come back to it if that's satisfactory to you.
What we're really asking for from the commission, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Lopez, is just the approval of the concept. If we need to make some minimal draft, because yes, there are some, there are 2 current vacancies at the sheriff's office, and there might be one waiting in the wings that would like to utilize this agreement. So there is a little bit more of an urgency than being able to wait. So if it's something that y'all would like to see, we're just asking for approval of the concept itself, and that you've seen the draft agreement with the understanding. I think that's a great idea about the exigent circumstances, just anything like that that's in there.
Okay, so that word's not on the agenda, concept, that makes all the world a difference. So I will move to amend that agenda item and make the motion on 7B to approve the concept of law enforcement employment buyout contract as presented by our Sheriff Sanchez.
Second.
The motion has been made and second to approve 7B. Huh?
His motion wasn't to approve it. His motion was to
amend
amend the agenda item. And you'll have to do
Amend.
another,
And then we do the second motion. Yeah, that was my intent. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I should have clarified that.
So what is the deal?
We'll just approve. I'm doing the motion to amend and add the word concept. So we can approve that, and then I'll make the next motion to approve the concept.
Okay.
Chair? Yep. Before we go to a vote, I've got a question for Javier. You mentioned the buyout on other deputy contracts from other counties or whatever. Is there a money cap?
I'm not sure what it's going to take just yet. So this is
a 1-year sheriff deputy you want to hire from Lee County. He's making, you got to buy his buyout. You got to buy that contract, 2 years worth of contract out there. We're going to pay Lee County for. He comes over here and he's here for 12 months and 3 days, and he leaves out. We spent $80,000 plus.
Well, yeah, we definitely won't buy it.
You spend $80,000 on a contract buyout, and then he doesn't have to pay for his uniforms after he leaves out after the 1 year.
Yeah, so
I think there needs to be a money cap, some kind of, we need, meet something right there. I just don't agree on buying out a contract.
yeah, so in the contract, it states for books, tuition to attend the academy, medical expenses as far as, your psychological evaluation, your physical, those things, and I think lodging as well. So everything that you have to pay for basically as like an uncertified to send to the academy and get them ready to actually be a certified deputy, that's what we would be paying out. And generally, it's been a really long time. I think or actually Sergeant Bowen was the last one we sent to the academy. So it's been a little bit, but I think back then it was, $5,000-$6,000 to get him ready and send him. So it's definitely wouldn't be anything like $80,000 that we would be buying back.
But so you're saying is if you want to hire a deputy from Lee County, that you're not going to buy out his 2-year, if he's got 2 years left on a contract, you're not going to buy that contract out to get him to Roosevelt County?
If it's an $80,000 contract, no, there's no way I could justify, bringing him over for that type of money. That would just be
so
irresponsible of us to spend that much money.
Well, I agree with you, but how do we know that without it being in writing or anything like that?
And I guess that's something that
I am
we can-
fully, I'm don't get me wrong, I am for getting better officers, and even if we need them to go somewhere, I don't want to get them out from under anybody, but I just don't see in buying out contracts. I don't think we have the funds to do that.
No.
Well, and if the commission is a little more comfortable with actually putting a cap on it, we can definitely do some type of cap. What would you be comfortable as far as buying out a contract?
Yeah, I would just like to see the actual wording before I vote on it. I would just feel more comfortable knowing what it says before I vote on it.
I think they're working on it right now.
So, Mr. Chairman, on my first motion, I was just going to amend to add the word concept. We could proceed with that one.
Would you please just make your motion?
So my motion on agenda item 7B is for the approval of the concept to approve the law enforcement employment buyout contract. That motion is on the floor. And concept, that's the big word. So I think it's going to be a moving document or working document. That's going to be, because I agree with Commissioner Criswell.
Okay.
So I want to add the concept.
Do we have a second?
Yes, I seconded it.
And we still have a second. And we will now take a vote on.
What are we voting on right here?
Just to add the word concept. It's
Are we going
amended.
to rescind the
We're
first
act-
motion?
We're adding.
Yes.
The word concept.
I vote yes.
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 5 yes votes. Now, are we supposed to go back and vote on that approval again after that, or is this taken care of?
Mr. Chair, I think all we've done is amended the agenda
Exactly.
item.
To add the word concept.
So now what exactly does the
I'm
agenda
not
read?
voting for something I don't have writing.
Request for approval of concept of law enforcement and employment buyout contract.
Say that again, please.
Request for approval of concept of law enforcement employment buyout contract.
So with that, that means the contract without any wording on it.
Yes.
Just
Just
vote
like
on a blank sheet of paper.
To allow the contract to be created.
But will that allow the contract to be implemented?
No, you'll still have to implement the contract at some point.
Okay.
This is to give them direction, if I'm not mistaken, and for point of clarification, well, he's busy. Fellow commissioners, I think this will get the ball rolling. And at a later date, they're going to bring an actual contract that we can review, approve, and or continue. to
Well, I
amend.
think they need to have it today, so I think they need to.
So we're fixing to work on that, Mr. Lopez.
Okay.
I think we have timeout right now.
I don't either.
We could take
I would love a recess.
And we do have a 10-minute recess.
Thank you.
So There you go.
The best thing I've heard all morning. It's all about getting thrown in confused.
I gotta, it's my deadline. I gotta know. I will, she's good at letting me know.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you. Thank you once again.
On that note, have a good rest of your day.
Jeff made it.
Yeah, long time no see. It's been a while. Yeah. Sure, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.